All right, welcome back to part two of the ultimate dynamic curve tutorial, I guess. This is sort of a continuation of the other part. I'm going to call it part one, but in that part, it's the dynamic curve tutorial. You'll notice that we built two systems, one with a hair system that's basically a CV curve and another that's an EP curve. And we left off with just sort of fixing up these guys over here. So now we're going to move on to this over here. And what you're looking at is an IK chain. I basically have an IK handle attached to these objects. And if you remember in the very beginning of part one, I showed you a kelp object that I had in the scene. I'm going to go ahead and pause that right there. And that was like the kelp object. Okay? And in order to sort of attach this to the curve, we have to build a joint system first and use an IK handle and then smooth bind this geometry to this bone system. So it's real simple, real easy. You'll get the hang of it right away, but that gives you the option of creating original geometry and models to sort of attach to these dynamic curves. So this is really cool. All right, so we'll get on with this. We'll create some of this stuff here now and take a look at the same properties of basically that we looked at in the part one of this tutorial. So before we do that, make sure that you get over to lesterbanks.com and get over to his certified computer graphics workwear and get yourself a t-shirt. Great stuff. Lester did a great job in putting his store together here. P-Tex Hero, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. There's an IK rigger, that's this one here. Go check them out because it's great stuff. So thanks, Lester. And I hope he does great with this because, this is certified. That means you can wear it for casual Monday or for formal Friday. All right. So there you go. Get over to Lester. Thanks, Lester. Now, let's maybe go back to, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and just save this. I'm going to just save this file. And I'll save that scene. And I'm going to go back to the previous point where we left off, which I believe was this tutorial start. Okay. And this is kind of where I left off in part one. And you'll notice that basically we just set up those curves and everything was going here. So if you're starting with me from this point, everything will kind of be cool. So let's take a look at this geometry now. What we need to do is create some bones to kind of go along here on these EP curves. And the best way to do that probably be reset, go to the beginning, press your space bar and come down here, press space bar again, and let's open up this this front view. And you can see my curves right here for my, those are the other curves, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna build some, like one joint for this. So I'll go ahead and come up and make sure you're in your animation menu set and you're underneath your skeleton. And we're gonna get that joint tool. And you'll basically just click like on the bottom, and I'm going to try and do these kind of evenly, so I'll space them out kind of small here. We'll just sort of click on each one of these grid things. So I'm going to make a bunch of bones. This one's going to be kind of a dense bone system here. I'm going to have probably about 20 bones or so, and that'll just give it kind of a smooth motion on the IK handle when we don't have bones that are longer than others. So we'll go up to about the top there and I'll just hit enter. And now I have these bones, and you'll see in the outliner they appear underneath joint one, and then everything else is parented below that. All right, so all of these can form a joint system. So I'll just go ahead and choose my main joint system right there. And I'm going to do a Command D or a Control D if you're on the Windows, and just duplicate that. Command D, duplicate that, and bring it over. So now I have three different joint systems. Each one's going to be attached to a curve basically. So we got joint 1, and then joint 20, and then joint 21. Let's see what's going on underneath this. See, the parenting system is kind of strange, so you'll have to maybe label these depending on what you need, but you know, just remember that the joint 2, 3, 4, 5 is all under there. So I don't know. You'll get the idea. Just know that you got 3 different joint systems. Okay, so let's look at this kelp for a minute. I'll go ahead and bring the kelp in, and let's go to display. I know that it's hid, so we're going to show that selection. And right now it's kind of small in there, so I'll go ahead and just scale this up. Hit R on the keyboard. I think I'll just scale it to about where that curve, just a little bit before the curve ends, and then move it over, you know, just so it kind of fits on there. And I think what I'll do is do a Command D. I'm going to duplicate this this kelp and maybe rotate it a little bit. Just give it a little bit of rotation that way. Just to give it a little variance. And then I think I'll do a Command D again and make another copy. Bring it over here and maybe rotate it. Maybe rotate it a little bit differently in this direction. And maybe offset it a little bit. I don't know. You can do whatever you want. So anyway, basically just sort of made those shape differently there. All right, so we're almost there. What we need to do is look at those bones first, and we need to attach them to the dynamic curve. So I'll go ahead and select maybe joint number 1, and you can see where that's our joint system. Might want to show the bones. If you click on this tool right up here, that'll show you the bones in there. And you know, we've got the bones. So sometimes it's good just to come back over into your main view. We'll come over into the main view here and maybe take a look at it in X-ray mode. And let's just see, let's start our curves out and see what's happening with our curves. Now, I might want to stop it somewhere mid-motion because we want to attach these bones to this dynamic curve. We don't want to attach them to the static curve up here, our original curve. So with that in mind, let's just grab these bones, and what we're going to do is we're going to create an IK handle for these bones that attaches it to this dynamic curve. Really easy. All we have to do is just come up here into the skeleton, and we're going to go for the IK Spline Handle tool. And you'll get something that looks like this this little X right there. And what I want to do is maybe just click on the bottom bone down there, on the very bottom one, and then come up to the top and just click on this top one, and then click over here on the actual curve. So 3 clicks and it's already attached, which is really cool. So if I go back to the beginning and play this out, you'll see where that bone system is now attached, and this is the IK handle. So we're going to do the same thing for these over here. So I might as well just let this play a little bit, and I can see where there's the curve. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that second joint from the outliner. Actually, I want to grab the geometry first. So if I click on this geometry, that's the poly surface. Actually, no. I want to create an IK handle. I'm sorry. Let's go back to the skeleton. We're going to get that IK Spline Handle tool again. We're going to come down here and click on the last bone in there. And I'm going to click on the top one up here. All right. And then I'm going to click on that curve. And it's going to attach itself to the curve. Now we're going to do the same thing to the last one. We'll get another IK Spline Handle tool. Come down here, click on the very bottom joint, and I'm going to click on the very top joint here, and then I'm going to click on the curve. And now everything is sort of attached. If I go back to the beginning and we play through this animation, you can kind of see where everything is attached to its IK Spline Handle. Okay, so that's really cool. We're almost there. Now we need to take our custom geometry right here and attach it to this IK Spline Handle, this dynamic curve. All right, and that's really easy to do. I'm going to go back to the beginning here, and let's just look at our first one here. Normally what you want to do is you want to select your geometry first, and then you want to select your bone system. So not the IK handle, but your actual joint. So I know that this is joint 1, okay? So I'm going to select the geometry first, and then I'll do a command select on the joint and come up into the skin, bind skin, smooth bind. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing for these as well. If you want to take a look and see what it did, I'm going to just sort of play, and you'll be able to see that the geometry is now attached, and it's sort of deforming as the IK handle is telling it to do so. So that's really cool. All right, so let's go back and do these other ones. We'll go ahead and select our geometry first, and I know that the next joint is the joint 20, so I'll do a command select on that joint, and we'll come back up into the skin, bind skin, and go to smooth skin. I'm going to do the same thing for this one over here and joint 21. I'm going to command select that, go to skin, bind skin, smooth bind. Okay, now that I get the outliner out of the way, let's go back to the beginning of the animation. I may take off the X-ray view there, and the bones, you can see where they're showing up here. You have an option. You can click on the bones right here and actually see them much better if you want to see all of them. Or if you take your bones off, you're going to see them, but they're going to be kind of obscured by geometry or wherever they're kind of encased by. For this, we'll just leave them off for now. And let's take a look and see what happened to overall to our kelp here. All right, so that's really cool. Each one is kind of following along what it'll do. And you'll notice there's some interpenetration going on here. And I'll just sort of see if we can stop that at a certain point, take a close look at that, because this is the next thing we need to fix when we're dealing with dynamic curves and, colliding geometry and whatnot. So right about there, all right, I'm going to stop it, and let's take a look at that. Yeah, you'll notice that you'll get some of this stuff sometimes. And once again, this interpenetration is caused because we're not quite set right on our hair system. Now, this one is hair system number 2. Okay, I'm going to call that one up. And you can see where it's highlighted, and there's our problem spot. Well, immediately we know that there's a collision problem, and what we want to do is make sure that self-collide is on. So I'm going to go ahead and click that self-collide, and I'm going to come back here. It's at about frame 271. So let's wait and see what happens at frame 271, right about there. I'm going to stop it when it sort of comes in there, and we'll see if that did any good. Well, it didn't. You can see where your collision is happening right there, and it didn't do any good. Okay, to turn on this self-collide, but it will, because what we need to do is we need to look at what this width offset is. And if I go into X-ray mode here and sort of take a closer look at these guys, and I actually click on Draw Collide Width, I'm going to probably be able to see something. Let's get a real close look at this one over here. And you can see where they're inside of there, but we need to sort of enlarge in those so we can tell what's really going on. All right, so you may want to come down to your Draw Collide Width. Let's give it a few more segments, and let's look at the offset right here by just sort of bringing this offset up. And you can see right now that's where they're at. They're too small to be seen, and here they're just right. Okay, but not actually quite right, because we're still not covering the outer part of this surface. So let's bring our collide width offset to, say, maybe like 2. You can set this to whatever you want, and now you can see where these start to cover the maximum range of that. So I could actually bring it down a little bit, that width offset, and just sort of tighten it up. Now let's go back to the beginning. I'm going to get off of X-ray mode there, come back to the beginning, and we'll see if at frame 271 these are still colliding and having a problem. So 271 roughly. All right, so there it is. I'm going to just go ahead and keep playing, because I'm not noticing these are colliding with this hair system because we haven't set anything up for these two to interact yet. So essentially this will cut through there. But let me hit pause here. But you'll notice we're not with these are actually repelling each other, and they're not colliding. This is sort of the boundary of collision right here. So That's cool. So we could always turn up, a little bit of oversampling. That never hurts. Within reason. You also have a repulsion factor here, which, if you sort of bring that up, I'm going to try and get a view out here. I'm bringing this repulsion factor up, and they're going to repel themselves. All of these divisions are going to sort of repel each other, and let's bring it down to, say, like none. And it starts at the beginning, plays its way through. So anyway, you get the idea. There's a lot to play around with there, and you learned a lot about these systems with setting up this first hair system. So now we have geometry attached, and things are going cool. And there you go. Now, there's another thing that you can do, and I don't know if I should get into this or not, but let's try it out. I'm going to sort of stop this simulation right here. We'll come over here and maybe go back to the beginning, and let's just bring it back around like that. Come in here, and let's look at this hair system. There's a couple of different things you can do to this now. If we want to take this hair system right here, I'm just going to go ahead and choose hair system number 1. All right, and that's going to affect these guys over here. I'm going to go ahead and come back and set the dynamics menu set, and I want to assign a field to these curves. So I'm going to maybe do a volume axis curve, and you'll notice that it shows up right down here and that it's shaped as a sphere. Well, I may want to switch that up to a cube maybe, and we'll give it a little bit more size. We'll give it a little more scale. So I'm going to scale that up and just sort of bring it over a bit, and I'm going to have it affect this hair system over here. So let's see if we can do something with that. All right, well, right now the volume axis curve is pushing everything outward, so we'll go ahead and do a play on this over here and kind of see what happens. It's pushing everything outward, and it kind of looks the same as it did before, but let's look at a couple of different things that we can do with this. We can do an away from center. Like right now, it's like an explosion. Everything's going every which way. We can switch a lot of things, but right now, let's just mess with turbulence. If I put some more turbulence on there, this field now has an interplay between all the qualities of the dynamic curves plus the field. So you can get a lot of different stuff happening with this. Let's give it a little more turbulent speed and put the turbulence on, take it off. So this could be keyframed to go, up and down and around and, whatever. So that's just sort of adding a field. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop here for a second. And so you get the idea. You can add a field. You can change this field up. If I were to come over into, say, the volume access field channel box and come down here and sort of see what's happening, I might want to switch the away from center position and also the away from axis. So if I were to, say, set this one to 0 and that one to 0, and then give it just a singular directional speed of, say, 1. Now I have just a single air or a volume field going this way. So let's see what happens there. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. As you can see, it's pushing these over this way now. So, it's just another way of adding a little bit more control. And a lot of times what you'll see with stuff like this is that you're going to have some issues with things kind of pointing through each other. And that's going to be found in the hair system. Usually you're going to have to go back to your hair system. Let's see, that's hair system 1, I believe. And let's go back into the tabs here. And let's maybe look at a couple of things with the dynamics. You do have your turbulence, but we're really we have static cling and repulsion. We might want to bring repulsion up a little bit to have them repulse each other, bring our static cling. I don't know, sometimes it works okay to bring it down to a negative value. And yeah, let's see. Friction, you might want to bring your friction down a bit over here in the overall shape. Let's bring that friction down. And yeah, so sometimes that helps smooth things out. And yeah, see, it's still penetrating through there. So you will have issues like that you're going to have to kind of figure out. Sometimes iterations has a bit to do with smoothing some things out. You may want to start upping your iterations. It sort of just gives more properties to be calculated in a way. And even though I'm still getting some stuff mixing up, you know, hey, what can you expect? So anyway, you're going to have to go through and really figure that out. Now, another thing that you can do with this, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the animation here and just sort of show you what you can do on a per follicle basis. I'll go down to there for a second. I'm going to select this one right here. That's going to be our hair follicle shape 3, okay? And you'll notice that you have a couple of choices here. You have a simulation method, which, yes, we're in dynamic, we want to be there, but you also have a point lock. So right now it's locked at the base down here. But what would happen if we were to take that and switch that base up to, say, more like the tip right here? Well, we'll go back to the beginning and let's see what happens. Okay, so the tip is in place, and that's anchored by the tip, but it's not really what we want, but we can have control over where we pin this point to. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the beginning, and we'll switch that from the tip to the to, like, say, both ends perhaps, and we'll go ahead and hit play. And now it's sort of bound by this top point and this bottom point. Yeah, pretty cool. And we'll go back here and let's say we go to just the base, or no attachment. Let's go no attach, and let's see what happens when we have no attachment. Yeah, you can see it does some wonky stuff. So anyway, just something to be aware of. You can play around with that all you want. Yeah, and I'm going to put mine back at the base. We're going to go back to the beginning, and there they are. Okay, so I hope this tutorial has been even more help, and if, like I said, go back and watch part 1, because that's going to explain a lot of stuff as well. This is sort of a wide topic, and there's lots of stuff to sort of play around with. Most of the qualities are dynamic. Almost everything you can keyframe, and almost everything you can sort of play around with here, can be animated. So anyway, you can override your dynamics on this. You can reset your stiffness, whatever. All right. There it is. Okay, so hope you had a good time. As always, read a book. Owner's Manual. Please read the help manual. Learn as much as you can. All right, be a good person, and yeah, we'll catch you for the next one, and get ready for school. Should be a good time. All right, thanks for watching.